So, with that, I want to introduce the two debate opponents today. Clay Herrmann, running for Garland County Judge, and George Pritchett, standing in not for Rick Davis, but for what he believes to be the Garland County position of Rick Davis, I guess is the way to say it.
Well, folks, I wish there was more of you here, but we're going to make it. We're going to make hay with the group that we got. So,
How are we going to do this, George?
I saw you last night, you had your hair.
okay, here's what we're going to do. Y'all know who I am. You know who he is. Audience, we're going to have a little bit of rules here. I hate rules. We're going to have some here. Here they are. It's going to be fun. It's going to be informative. I want to begin with some items I'm going to call housekeeping. We're going to move quickly through these housekeeping items. I'm going to minimize the questions. I'm going to, in the interest of time, because we have a second group that I think are the meat of the matter today. So, the housekeeping items, we're going to talk about the website, subdivision codes, animal control, roads and bridges, and 4-year terms for constitutional officers. The hot items that we're going to spend more time on, and Clay may have something to add to this, are going to be emergency communication system, water, county relationship with the city, forced annexation. To give you a quick review, the new emergency communication system is under consideration and going to be adopted by the county. The city has a little different plan. We'll talk about that. Water, it's a big topic. We probably won't have any answers about Washita till sometime after the first of the year. We're hoping it's going to be in January, but we've experienced so many delays about answers that we really can't be certain. I think also we need to understand when we talk about water from the grave, we're still only talking about water from the re-rake pool. We're not talking about water above the dam. We're talking about water below the dam, and it wouldn't provide us with a steady source of water. It would be shut down at times. Roads and bridges. We passed the 5/8 cent in the county. We'll talk more about that when we get that point. And then forced annexation is a big topic. Now, Clay may have some things to offer, more items that we'll get into. Clay, this is your opportunity. Present your ideas. The way we're going to do this is I want you to present your ideas. I'm going to make a brief comment. We'll take a question from the couple from the audience on these first group of things, and then we'll move forward to the meat of the matter, and we'll wrap through this. And I'm king today, folks. You either stay on topic or I just cut you off. We're not going to go off in the wilderness. It's not because we do that, but we have an interest of time. We got 40 minutes approximately, and then we got some things we probably want to cover and wrap it up. So, Clay, I'm turning it over to you. The first item is going to be subdivision code, or your website. Talk briefly about it.
You all have one of these available at your table. Please take it home with you and visit that website sometime, if you will. Started this website about 2 years ago, actually January of 2015, after losing my race for Garland County Judge in 2014. The number one priority I have been advocating and speaking up about is to maximize transparency and accountability of Garland County government. And one method of doing that, the first method of doing that I am advocating is to have the quorum court meetings broadcast on free public access TV like the city of Hot Springs does, and have it live streamed and have a YouTube archive so that everybody has the ability to either view it live without having to go to the courthouse, or later looking at YouTube or wherever they happen to be live streaming it, the same way the city affords it an opportunity. And in addition to that, something different than what the city does, and something that some of you have fought really hard about, is that's to have a public comment opportunity built into the quorum court meeting proper, so that people who want to address some issue to the quorum court members can have a prescribed time to do that. It's part of the official meeting that will be broadcast on TV and part of what's archived and live streamed also. Also, to adopt a policy so that no major legislation is passed by the county legislature, the quorum court, without first, no major legislation meaning anything that's going to impact citizens in any significant way. Don't do that without first having public hearings where the public can interact with the legislators in the county government, and you can do that on TV, and do that live, and to make the government actually visible, not something that's semi-secret, and only those who go to the meetings can have a chance to know what's going on, but it'll be public and visible. Turn the lights on bright, open the shades, have a sunshine policy in Garland County.
Thank you, Clay. Yeah, I want to give you all a disclaimer here. I'm not Judge Davis. Matt McKee and I may look alike and have the same haircut, but I am not Matt McKee because he has all those beautiful little daughters. So, I like Clay's website. I've heard people on the quorum court say positive things about his website. I've heard Judge Davis say positive things about his website. We did have some disagreement. I think that disagreement's been worked out. I hope so. I'm speaking as George. I'm not speaking as members of the quorum court. I think it's a positive thing for our community. It's good. And until the county would have the position or something to invest the time, the money, and to maintain it, and that's what I've heard people say to me that are in this county administration, that it's a good website and someone else is doing it and it's a positive thing for the community. That said, I have some real doubts, and I was a person that advocated when I was on the quorum court that I thought televising the quorum court meetings would be a good idea. However, in the quorum court, unlike on the city board illegally makes their decisions by meeting illegally and then coming into the meetings and then presenting it, and we get the orchestrated act. But in the quorum court, it doesn't work that way. Ellen Lahala, she's a quorum court member. Have you ever seen any illicit under the table, behind the meetings, out of the sight of the public while you've been on the quorum court?
No, not really. A lot of it happens in committee meetings.
Absolutely, that's my whole point. Matt McKee and I bantered about in a number of committee meetings about things on different sides of issues, but my point is that if we're going to televise the quorum court meetings, and I think it's a good idea, but we would have to consider what would we do about the committee meetings where most of the discussion takes place, because you come out of the committee meeting and it comes out with it moves forward. Some don't even move out of it, right, man? Lots of things don't ever move out of committee. They don't get to move, they don't vote and move forward. When they come to the full quorum court, then the public doesn't get the benefit of all that. So I might say that we would have to work some details out. I think it's a good idea. I would like to see it, but I think we would have to incorporate that. We could use the Hot Springs School District would use their E-SLAB to do some of that for us. I think it's something, if Clay is elected as a judge, he might want to bring that before the quorum court. At the time I was on the quorum court, the decision was made we didn't want to do that for a number of reasons. Do you agree with that, Matt? Matt, do you have any comment to add to that?
If you don't mind.
Go ahead. Be brief.
Even if I was to change my mind about televising quorum court meetings or committee meetings, I could not change the minds of the majority of the quorum court. That is something that will never happen. And the main reason being that we know right now that when people come to the quorum court or to committee meetings to make comments, to make their opinions held on issues known, we know that those, whatever they say is said for the benefit of that committee or the quorum court or the county in general, not as a grandson. And unfortunately, when you put a TV camera in people's face, you end up wasting a lot of time. And public comments are always welcome at our meetings. I think you would agree with that. And the idea that we needed to add a public comment section demonstrates a lack of maybe understanding of what we do at our meetings. That's one of the first questions the judge asks before every quorum court is, does anyone want to speak anything on the agenda? That's how we operate.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Ellen. For the most part, when I sat on the quorum court, I shouldn't say for the most part, I agree with what Matt said. I think that one of the things that might answer a question that Clay's presented is I would like to see the quorum court most likely or sit down and adopt a policy about how the public comments go. I don't ever recall that we refused anybody the right to speak. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, just means George might not remember. Okay?
I've been on there 6 years and I never recall anybody
All
retiring.
right.
Matt, I would remind you,
I don't think we're gonna debate here. I think George has a format.
I think actually he and I are debating and you can.
Just hold on. Okay. Let's wrap this subject up. 30 seconds. What you got? And we're going to go to the next topic.
2 months in a row, I was denied a right to an opportunity to speak at a committee hearing, Matt. And one of those times you invited me to go and I was still denied. Have you forgotten all about that?
I guess I have forgotten all about that.
Clay, I'd like you to move forward on the, talk about the subdivision codes in your position, where you've been and where you think we need to go. And I want you to keep in mind that at this particular time, there's no activity on subdivision codes to change anything at this time. I want to verify that with Matt and Ellen. Do y'all have any knowledge of any? Okay. So what are your thoughts about where we were, where we are, and where we need to go in your opinion?
Well, as far as where we are, to my knowledge, any consideration of any subdivision and development code was tabled and actually at Matt McKee's motion in July of last year, immediately before I made a presentation of an alternative subdivision ordinance that I was denied consideration of because of that motion. So to my knowledge, that still is tabled. It could be brought back at any time. Any court member could make a motion to say, I'd like to untable that, I believe, and then it could be taken up again. So the idea that that is gone is not necessarily true. And if you hear Judge Davis saying, well, that's been taken care of, it's just been tabled and waiting possible further action. I could elaborate more.
But I want to move through these topics here quickly. The point is, it's tabled at this time. Should this come back, should someone bring it up, it would go through the committee process, and then we would have an opportunity. It would be announced, I think, through your website and through your all's agendas that you put out. We would have the opportunity. Russ, what's your comment?
My comment is, I think the first time it came up, I think I killed it. The second time it came up, I think Clay killed it. The first time it came up, Matt and I met with several people and tried to change it from a 70-page document to, I think we got it down to 17 pages that I still wasn't real happy with. But my understanding is right now the resolution is that the 911 people, when they assign an address, are basically resolving what the quorum court's issues are.
They will not assign an address if those issues that we were trying to resolve aren't resolved.
So we kind of have that one at a level stand right now, is my understanding.
Okay. Let me comment. I adamantly agree that if the subdivision code were to become back before the quorum court, back before a quorum court committee, that the public should have an opportunity to come in and comment, because I found much of that 70-page document. I spoke also very egregious. I'm going to let him wrap up with 30 seconds on that. We're going to the next topic.
Okay, and when we're talking about subdivision code, you think everybody, if you have land anywhere, you've got a subdivision. You say, no, I don't. Yeah, I just have a piece of land. No, you have a subdivision. It's a subdivision of some larger piece of land that used to be defined in the past. And if you ever do a split of any part of your subdivision, you are creating a new subdivision. And the act of doing that, by definition of these ordinances, these two ordinances of the county judge that are tabled currently, is development. So if you split off a piece of your land, to deed some of it to anybody, you're creating a new subdivision and you're a developer just by doing that one thing. And both of those laws require that it requires the county judge to give written permission for you to do that. Plus you have to jump through a bunch of other hoops as far as going to various agencies and getting sign-offs and accomplishing various things. And there we are.
That's why I tabled it.
Okay, and I want to point out that tabled means you put it aside, you filed it away. It's not something sitting on a pending to be acted upon deal. Someone could bring it forward. Clay's right, there's lots of real estate law. There's people in this room that's really been affected by it, others that probably have no knowledge. So we're going to move on to the next topic. And the next topic is animal control, okay? When I sat on the quorum court, it was a lot about animal control, pit bull dogs, and money and licensing. At this current time, we have a situation where the city has astronomically raised the cost for the animal control services that they demand from the county. And our quorum court And our county judge, justly so, said, not no, but hell no, right so far?
Sure.
And all of a sudden, the city has a little bit of an issue if you go back and do some investigating with them, that, oh my God, what are we going to do if we don't have that much money? Because there won't be as much county money we can steal out of the animal control and put in other things. So, that said, we did have a foreign court member, one of our group, some of the time, Mary Mournival, she proposed a voluntary tax. I don't know about you people, but I don't volunteer to pay any damn tax. I just want you to know. I did, while I was on the foreign court, I did advocate that we put in a licensing fee in the county. Did not move forward, we didn't do it. My reason was, I didn't expect everybody to pay. What I expected to do, we would collect about a third of it. A third of what we maybe should get, we would have something. If we're going to build a facility up the jail complex, and we're going to get in the dog pound business, we need income. I'm not sure that you can depend on the citizens to do a voluntary tax. Clay, if you're elected county judge, what would you do about the animal control and the voluntary tax that's been proposed, and how you would move forward?
What I would do, being in the position of not having a clear opinion about what ought to be done, is I would listen to people who have opinions and hear what they have to say, and I would like to also encourage that process to be visible to the public. And if we were broadcasting on TV some public hearings where people were allowed to discuss that, that would be all the better. Sunshine, daylight, let's take that path.
Thank you, Clay. Ellen, you have something to offer?
I'd just like to say I'll be happy to pay the $10 voluntary tax.
Okay, and I admire you for that. That's just fine. Did you have any comments, sir?
We also changed the wording so it's $10 or any part thereof. So if somebody wants to donate $2, they can. If somebody wants to donate $8, they can. If somebody wants to donate $1,000, they can.
Don't hold your breath, Mr.
I'm not
Mayor.
going to, but hey,
Hey,
don't put it past
Dan,
people.
isn't it $10 now? Oh, it's not?
Did you have anything else to offer on that subject? Okay. Our next topic is the roads and bridges. We passed 5/8 sales tax. These are our housekeeping items we're trying to rush through, folks. You know, the county judge and the foreign court are going to make the decision what we're going to do on roads and bridges. We're not talking about the road in the village now, the scenic highway, the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit that speeds everything up. So would you do anything different? Would you organize anything different if you're elected county judge to make those decisions?
I don't know how those decisions are made right now by the incumbent county judge as far as evaluating and making decisions in which.
It's going to be made by, they're going to have input of what they are, and the foreign court will take some of the input from citizens in the community, and they'll prioritize them. The county judge will oversee while they're doing this. They will have discussions in committee meetings, and they'll decide what the priority is and how far the money will go. How would you do it different?
Okay, I didn't understand that you were talking about spending the new tax funds that we've just passed. That's fine, okay. $2 tip. That sounds like a pretty reasonable way to do it to me.
For you.
So, there you are.
I think we all agree on that. I'm going to move right down. I'm going to ask a question of the audience here. We have on the ballot that you're going to decide on, and most of you've already voted, 4 years for our constitutional officers. Do y'all, I just want to see a show of hands. No, don't have any discussion. Do y'all favor extending the terms to 4 years, or do you? So how many favor it? Hello. How many oppose it? Well, I'm going to call it a tie. Clay, would you give your opinion? I think we might have to get a recount.
Well, if I were in office, I'd favor it, I think. But I'm not, so I'm opposing it. And I do understand that 2 years between elections is not very long. You barely get in the saddle and then start riding down the trail, and you have to get off and start campaigning again. But on the other hand, if you get a bad one, you can get rid of them a lot quicker in half the time. So that's a major advantage. And to my mind, that advantage, being able to get rid of a bad one quicker, outweighs the hassle of having to do an election every 2 years.
You know, I'll offer you all an anecdotal solution to this. Just remember, it only took you a few minutes to get married. If you've ever been divorced, how damn long did that take you? Okay, we're going to move to what I considered, and Clay and I sat down and what are the most important topics that we're about to face? Emergency communication system, the water issue we'll elaborate on, county relationship with the city, and forced annexation. At this time, I read a letter that Judge Davis sent out. I haven't seen it published in the paper, but the county's going to go with the AWIN system, and that makes them compatible. The city, understand that the AWIN system can cover the city and the county. It's there, and if they do that, we have the money. We set it aside. We've collected it from the jail construction tax, the excess that we've accumulated. This is law enforcement. I'm not going to go into how we're going to maintain and everything in the future, but we have the money to do this, make the citizens in Garland County, all of the citizens in Garland County, the city residents too get to be a little safer. However, the city doesn't want to go on that system. I'm going to ask Clay to tell us what he thinks of the AWIN system, and I know there's not a lot of knowledge of it, and he maybe doesn't have a lot of detail. We have the money to pay for it, and we need a new system, and we're going to be able to give faster response times to our citizens. We're never going to get 100% coverage, but we're going to get over 90, I believe, and we'll work on it. And they did test the system over in Lakeside School. They won't even need any repeaters. It will work. So Clay, I'm going to ask you what you think of the emergency communication system, how you think we should move forward.
Well, I am not for having a large tax campaign in order to raise a bunch of tax money to buy a super expensive $17+ million system.
That's the city.
For the city. I'm not sure how much say-so the county government has in that decision, though. The city, here you are.
Okay. I want to interrupt because the county has a say-so to put the system in. It'll cover the whole county. The city can't tell the county not to do it. It's there. You've paid for it. Your wallet will not be any lighter when we install the AWIN system to cover all of Garland County, including all of the communities. We're not going to get off in the weeds, and I could lead you there quickly on the city and what they think, but it's paid for, and you know the city doesn't want your opinion anyway, Clay, but tell us what you think and how good it would be for the county. The city doesn't want anybody's opinion, by the way. It's not just you, sir.
That's true.
Well, from what I know, George, or Rick.
Ricky George.
Ricky George. From what I know, from what little I know, the AWIN system is by far the better choice for the county to make. I guess we are making it. There's really not much point in elaborating because we are doing that, right? So.
Can I correct something you said, George?
Yes.
You said that we're going to get better than 90% coverage. I think the city will eventually do that even on the AWIN system. The county's going to get decent coverage in cars, but on handhelds they are not going to get, I don't even think 50% maybe. I mean, there's a big gap there, but they're doing the right thing. It's the best system out there. But the coverage I don't think is going to exceed 90% even in cars.
Let me ask you something, Russell, too, about that. One of the things I heard that kind of disturbed me was the chief, police, and fire chief were doing their pitch about the new system they want to have, and talking about Lakeside School and the blind spots of going out there. And my understanding, I think from you, is that you could put inexpensive repeaters there that would just solve that problem straight away and inexpensively.
Yeah, it's
And
$10,000.
yet they don't want to do that because they want to use that as a scare tactic if children are at risk. So we need to buy this expensive system. It's for the children. And that kind of reminds me of ISIS warriors hiding behind children.
Well, the city has that plan that they're going to require places like the Arlington to put these $10,000 repeaters in to make the system work throughout. So, I mean, the city already has that in their plan. And this comment about it not working at Lakeside, when the city was out there testing it, was at the same time that AWIN was doing testing on the AWIN system, pre-announced testing.
Okay, I'm up here representing the quorum courts, what I believe to be their position and what I believe to be County Judge Rick Davis's position. Okay, here's the problem. I'm going to go in the weeds. The city doesn't want to be on the system because it doesn't enable them to steal any money. That's George's opinion, okay? From the matter. What happens is if they put out this 17 million or 7 million or 12 million or umpteen million, and they go with their own system. When Wade Nairmore calls because his baby's in his arm and he thinks he's dying, and he gets transferred around 4 or 5 places, it's going to go first to the county, and it's going to get transferred to them, and then they're going to transfer it to the in-city ambulance service. And what did I do? I just added 3 steps in there before I could get the person that calls with that issue. What happens is the reason the city doesn't want to go on the AWIN system is very simple. They don't want to cooperate with County Judge Clay Herrmann or County Judge Rick Davis or Matt McKee, JP, and JP Ellen Bahala. They want to be on their own. Here's the program, folks. They're going to do that. They're going to get water and sewer into it, and then they're going to take the money, they're going to float bonds, thank you, Chad, float them out of there and pay for it. And when they pay for it, then they're going to take the money, the tax that they're proposing, the 2.6 mils, and that goes in the general fund and disappears down the toilet of the city general fund. Tell us if you think the AWIN system is the way to go for the county and the citizens, all of us.
I think so.
Now, county relationship with the city, it's fractured, it's divided. Clay, if you are elected county judge next Tuesday, what are you going to do to make the relationship with the county? Because you're going to have the position, if you're elected, that you're going to be able to focus over the quorum court, and they're going to make decisions maybe with you or against you. But you're going to be the key factor, the key person to improve the relationship with the county, or pardon me, with the city. How would you do different than what we're doing?
I have a history of interacting with the city and standing up to the city when they've been wrong about some things, like you might recall the ETJ issue that I fought them long and hard on, and we even got Attorney General opinion to let an election go forward when Brian Albright said no. And so I have a history of not being a pushover to city officials. I do understand that Brian Albright does not represent the people of the city, the citizens of Hot Springs. He represents the board of directors. He's the hired gun for the board of directors. He doesn't, the title is city attorney, but he doesn't represent the citizens of the city generally. He represents the board of directors only, who are his clients. So I have that understanding. I would approach the city with that understanding and would deal with the city regarding the water issues and some others in a resolute way, well, in a resolute way.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you believe that the existing quorum court, and we had a water committee, and some of these people, many of them attended the meetings, and the county judge have not been dealing aggressively with the city for the benefit of the county? I don't think you're saying that, but I just want you to clear up. I mean, I asked you what you would do, and I think you're right on, and you did that, and you were instrumental in the ETJ, and I think every one of us in this room and everybody in the county is appreciative of that. But I personally, in my experience on the quorum court and with our county government, I don't think that we're being a pushover to the city. I think we're holding our own. There's some things the city just holds more marbles than we do. What do you think?
Well, there may be one of the JPs that would like to address my comment a little bit after I make it, but some of you may know, I attended a meeting, and I think I have it videoed, and I think it's on that website, a meeting that the quorum court did, at which there was a unanimous intent to proceed with a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city because of the 150% water charge and sewer charge. And they expressed that intent to go forward, and then County Attorney Ralph Loam said, well, before we do that, they'll give me allow me to have one more meeting with Brian Albright, and we'll talk to him, and probably won't go anywhere, paraphrasing, but we'll just see what we can do. And as far as I know, after that, it just fizzled, and I don't know what happened to that resolution to proceed against the city with a federal civil rights lawsuit.
Matt McKee, I'm going to ask you to answer that. I think, if I understand it correctly from discussion with the county judge and the JPs, that we have made a conscious decision to wait for the outcome in January of what kind of ruling comes out from the Corps of Engineers. But could you elaborate how we got to that point, what our, maybe some of our committee meetings and the thought process was?
Well, the Corps, you're exactly right. The Corps of Engineers has basically figured out that the city of Hot Springs doesn't have a water shortage. They didn't have one at the time. They don't have one now, and it'll be a long time before they actually have one. Understanding that, it makes the process of obtaining future water sources more difficult and less of a priority for the Corps. We would like to tie those water sources down, whether it be the Gray or a washdown. Also, there are other water systems in the county, North Garland County, that have wanted to get water out of Washita as well. The county doesn't want to do anything that would jeopardize tying those water systems in. But I don't know that we will wait till January or not. It's a fluid situation. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize future water sources. We don't want to use a nuclear option and blow up city-county relationships forever. We don't want to jeopardize any future projects that might be done in the area. But at the same time, our citizens are being denied what we believe are rights. And it's a tightrope that we're trying to walk.
Ellen, did you have anything to offer?
Well, I've been saying this for years, but the contract with Entergy allows 30 million gallons per day of water to be removed from Lake Hamilton. The existing treatment plant can only process 25 million. Why can't they increase the capacity of the existing treatment plant to 30 million gallons per day at the time, as a stopgap measure until some of these other issues are worked out?
It's our intention to leave the $100,000 we have budgeted for a lawsuit in next year's budget.
Thank you both for those comments. I want to add that politics and all these things and campaigns, it's all about marketing. If you make the other guy look as bad as you can and you make yourself look as good as you can, then I don't know which is prettier, Hillary or Trump. But anyway, I want to say that the city presented at the last time water come up at the city board meeting when I was in attendance, that they come up with their 20 million rolling average. They present it always in a worst scenario basis. So I think that's what we're dealing with. Clay, I want to give you the mic back to talk about water. I think we've got it from the quorum court where it is. Kind of brings us all up to speed. Is there anything you would do differently on the water? I think we are being prudent, but we're just not ready to make a move yet because we want to be sure we make the right move.
Well, regarding the water, I think I agree with what Matt said, that we don't have a crisis. We don't have a crisis now. We don't anticipate one for quite some time if growth happens. And so we can dismiss dealing with it as a crisis issue. But however, we can still return back to the city's treatment of the county outside the city limits regarding hookups to water and the charging. And we can, it is, I think, an appropriate role for the county judge, if he would so choose, to be outspoken and assertive in that issue with the city.
I referred to a letter that Judge Davis wrote, a memo he sent it to all of that in JP. Is that memo going to go to the newspaper? Did it go to be as a press release? Because I thought it would make an excellent press release. Just yes or no? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay. The judge did write a nice letter. He outlined all of this, much as Clay's outlined it. So on that matter, that's kind of where we are. I asked you about the county relationship with the city. How would you work to improve the county relationship with the city in light of the fact that the city teaches, the city treats the quorum court and county judges second class. Last time I checked, there's about 70,000 of those, or 60,000 out there in the unincorporated area and 35,000 in the city. How do you think we overcome that? Because they don't have more authority, they just assert more authority. Sorry about that.
or attack.
Probably, maybe everyone in here would think that mutual respect is necessary in a good relationship. Mutual respect.
Mutual! The city!
If it may be really difficult for people who live in the county to respect a tyrannical city government, and so it may take some adjustment on their part that is inspired by our actions before that we can come to that place where there is mutual respect. And if the city officials don't respect the citizens, the country folk of Garland County that don't live in the city, maybe we can teach them to.
Okay, we're going to wrap that up on water. We're going to talk about annexation. Specifically, we're going to talk about forced annexation. I'm going to ask Clay to give his idea first. I'm going to second ask Matt McKee to offer his thoughts. And Matt McKee and I had a conversation over several times over the last several months about there was some consideration, you know, if someone informed the city from the west and brought it in, we could stop the city that way. What do we need to have a line of defense to stop the city from encroaching onto the county unincorporated area without a vote of the people? What do you think, Clay, about a vote of the people? What do you think about forced annexation, and how would you approach it if you were the county judge?
Well, one hope that we can all hold is that come next Tuesday, there'll be 3 different city directors on board who will be more respectful of the idea of annexation. And we hope that I hope for that. I think maybe all of us hope for that. And regarding, George, what am I?
Well, what would you do different? Do you have any thought processes at the quorum court? And they're kind of they're waiting until the
regarding the annexation issue, it's just I mean, mind-boggling. It's like some kind of a science fiction movie that the city would be getting lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit and hiring firms in Little Rock to represent the city and spending who knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars because they want to grab people and pull them into the city against their will. That just seems just so outrageous. So what are my thoughts? That that's an outrageous thing, and the county judge is somebody that I'll speak and let their voice be heard to the city government about how outrageous that is, and they had better give that some more thought.
So he would have strategic positioning if he were the county judge, as county judge has. Now, Matt, can you comment on the we're going to have
just real quick.
Okay.
I didn't get the last few words you said. You said they were just waiting on what?
I think the quorum court, based on Matt and Ellen and things that the judges told me, Rick Davis, the judges told me, is you know, we're watching very closely. You know, we're sitting here, we're waiting for the next play to be called, and we're hoping that maybe some of these things that are lawsuits might change, but we're waiting, and we have the consent order that was brought out a week or so ago, but we're just waiting because you can't execute your play because you're playing defense and they're playing offense, and I'm kind of asking Matt, how are we going to get on offense, Matt?
I would like to see properties that have been illegally annexed be annexed, if it is the desire of the property owner. Speaking prospectively of Chestnut Plaza, the Atrium, things like that, where the city has crossed the boundaries of the lake. I'd like to see that. Obviously, we are hopeful that the consent order has some kind of effect. I don't know how or when that will happen.
We really need a business to come forward, or someone that was harmed by the action of the city to come forward and pay $50 and open it back up and bring the action. So I know you got to go. Okay, so Clay, I want to come back for just a moment.
Thank you.
And I want to say, we're going to give Clay a couple minutes to wrap up his position as county judge, and we'll take questions from the floor. I want to say this, that I think from listening to Clay today and listening and talking with Rick Davis, and thank you, Ellen and Matt, for being here, that we have 2 good candidates. They're on the page with the citizens, for the benefit of the citizens. Clay certainly made a great contribution in the ETJ, reducing it to a mile. I think he's had a lot of great ideas. I think his strength has been the website. He was on the right side of the issue, I believe. Me speaking on the subdivision codes, I think the quorum court tabled all those egregious codes. I think on roads and bridges, we would pretty much all approach it the way, and he's got good ideas. 4-year terms, that's up to folks, they'll vote it. The communication system, I think you have good grasp of that. I think you could manage that. I think the county relationship, you pointed out all the things that one would have to do to improve it. And I don't know that it's how you're received, it's not how you present it in this case now. Enforced annexation and how you would stop it. So I want you to wrap up your strengths and tell us why we should vote for you next Tuesday for county judge.
And add any topics you want.
Well, I would wrap up, I think, by just pointing out to many of you who have fought the city because you want more transparency from the city, that when are you going to think about the county? Are you going to just forget about the county? Do you want transparency with the county too? Because that's what I'm fighting for. And so that's what I'm offering as a candidate, a commitment to maximize transparency and accountability, and also to respect property rights in a way that I don't think there's anyone else in the county that's willing to work on respecting your property rights like I have been working for you. And so if you want transparency and accountability in our government, if you want other counties, maybe other governing bodies to look to Garland County and say, wow, you see what Garland County is doing? They are really taking this sunshine seriously. Transparency, accountability, they have a website that the financial transactions, for example, that have been a recent news item from the judge's office, if those accounts had been posted online on the county website for years, might have been spared that scandal. And in the future, we could be spared other scandals by having the finances of the county published on the county's official website in appropriate detail.
Yeah, I just want to offer is, since I'm representing the Quorum Court and County Judge here, that I don't know whether that would have changed anything, but I will tell you this, that those things are available if you want to go ask the controller for that. The problem we have here is someone committed crimes, and someone had been committing crimes for a long time, and the checks and balances we had in place were insufficient. We had people that were triggering their area for whatever reason, and I can tell you, I approved a lot of expense accounts over the years, and I approved some of them by just signing them, okay? So I don't know what we do, and I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I do not think that there was any, I don't think this action goes beyond one person committing a crime. Okay, questions for Clay? Questions for Clay? Anybody got any questions?
for you, Ricky George.
Before you do that, does
I
anybody have...
like when you dressed up for this thing.
Okay, does it, well,
Hillary's out of pantsuit.
does anybody have any questions for Clay? Okay, I'll get you next. You?
When you're talking about transparency, is there something in particular or overall that you want to bring to light, or I mean, what is it that's bugging you that because we have to see this on the transparency part?
Okay.
Maybe I can ask that right, but Tracy Coleman has been to more meetings at the county than some of the JPs.
Yeah.
And, you know...
He didn't get the check either, did he?
Well, what I'm saying is if you're interested, and you see this a lot, whatever your dog is in that fight, people will show up to that committee meeting. I don't know that that's going to... I think televising, that's going to be a waste of time and energy and money.
Well, let me suggest this. Let's switch to the city, and let's go ahead and tell the city we don't need to see those board of director meetings anymore. Just turn off the cameras. You all just do whatever you're going to do in private. If we want to know what you're doing, we'll come to the meetings and watch you, and that'll be good enough for me. And then maybe that's your position.
Okay, let me answer my question.
I don't, Reggie, I don't think that there's an answer to the question. The complexity of deciding to, the simplicity of broadcasting the city or the county meetings is simple. How do we handle all the activity that goes on in the county finance committee and the county other committees? Because that becomes cumbersome, because we can get to school to do the meeting for nothing, but I don't know that we can do that and have 10 or 12 meetings a month with quorum court. How many meetings? You got 3 committees and they all meet at least once a month, right?
Sometimes they have 3 meetings in one month.
So I don't have the answer to that. If he's elected county judge on Tuesday, then, you know, he can move that forward and try to develop it, but he does also have to convince the quorum court members, which is a greater obstacle.
Let me speak to that.
Let him ask his question, then you speak to
The
both.
question I have is this. Apparently, there is the city and the county. The city goes ahead and has their engineering, whether they're private or what have you, come up with one set of circumstances. I don't care if it's number of people or population, but it all boils down to the water problem. And what I'm saying is, if there could be unity so we don't get into the 3.2 million teed down the tubes that we did for that water situation on our lake. That bothers me for a long time. But anyway, if there could be a universal engineering that can be done with the city and the county so that there eliminates this conflict. Well, I got so many of this, I got so many gallons of this, and I'm going to withhold this for a shopping center here because it should be in this.
Okay, I understand.
All right, you understand? It's
The whole point is,
ridiculous.
it is ridiculous, and it's probably ridiculous. We have 288 school districts in the state too. But you can't get the city to come to the table. The city will not come to the table. We can't hold guns on them. You had a comment you wanted to make.
Regarding, you have to get the quorum court to agree to have video. I don't think you do. I think, well, let me make several remarks. Anyway, several remarks. One is the county judge is the custodian of all the real estate in the county that's owned by the county. The courthouse, he's in charge of it. And if he puts a camera in there, if he's asking the quorum court to allocate some specific budget for that, that's one thing. But if he just puts a camera in there, I don't think that the JPs have any say-so about that. But let's suppose they do. Let's suppose I'm wrong and they do. The other thing is there's a thing called the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and freedom of the press. So you could have some group from one of the schools come in as press and set up a camera, and I don't believe the quorum court would be able to shut down the freedom of the press.
They have in the district courts.
Is there anybody else got any other questions on that topic? Okay. I just want to point out, when I sat on the quorum court, they would not agree.
Yes, Judge.
Well, not so much a question, a statement. The city has used engineering firms, Jacob, for fraudulent use. I mean, $10,000 a month to sample Lake Hamilton water. It went on for 4 years.
Hey, nobody can deny. I'm the guy that stood up here and said they stole.
Yeah.
They're just saying they used. I said they stole. So you have go ahead.
You know, the ultimate plan is to incorporate a water system from Mount Ida to past Arkadelphia to Malvern. I mean, because they're making money off of it.
There's nobody in this room that will be alive by the time they can do that.
Well, I mean, that's where the gray water is going to go. It's not here.
Okay, Ellen, you're on the quorum court.
Well,
we're trying to stick to the quorum court, not the city. Okay,
now, the
folks.
thing that I can't wrap my mind around, you know, somebody said, well, we could put a meter at the 70 West Bridge and just buy water from the city. You know, the county could just buy water from the city, put a meter on at the 70 West Bridge. But the thing that you can't wrap your mind around is that some of us are on city sewer too. And if we just buy water from the city, they're gonna.
It's much more than just water. It's water and sewer, and it's how we do it. It's as long as we have the fracture, we can't do that. You had a question.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but it goes back to the beginning of Rick Davis. And that when you ran the first time, you ran as a conservative. You even came to some of the Tea Party meetings, taxing up already, which is sad. And then the first issue you did was to join the Democrats, and our greedy government was pushed through another tax increase on us with the county jail. I did not need a new jail. I needed an alternative. But yet we have not just a temporary permanent tax now, we've moved it into something else, which always happens, to a permanent temporary tax. For who knows how long it will last. And so that's my issue that's always been, that's bugged me, because that's what I've observed, and nothing, and that's kind of an issue when you run as one thing. We've had that happen throughout the Republican Party.
Okay,
You voted for it.
I'm gonna quickly
I voted-
close. We got,
I did not vote for the jail tax.
Okay.
okay, we're gonna have to close. The time's up and Jack's pushing me over here. The one thing we have to understand, this was to showcase what Clay would do. I think he's done a good job. I appreciate him standing up here and taking my abuse. And I'm glad that Ellen and Matt came. I feel your pain. I agree with you. I'm the guy that stood out there waving signs on the day, voting no on both of them. And I've been severely criticized, and I love every criticism that I got. So, Jack, do you have anything to offer? And Clay, do you want to just say anything?
I want to say thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Doc.
We thank you both for a very educational encounter. And I will close by just saying that I hope 1 week from today on Wednesday, we return and we are rejoicing at 12 noon at the results of the elections.
Amen.
Yes, Richard?